about living with absolute confidence. Now, who had a superhero when they were little? You might still have a superhero now, like you dress like him, you know. But who had a superhero when you were little? Like, oh, I totally want to be like them, one of those powers. Those are awesome. Well, when I was growing up, when I was 8 years old, I had this superhero. His name was He-Man. This was like back in like the 80s, dude. And I was 8 years old, and I totally wanted to dress like He-Man because He-Man was like, he's like cut, you know. And whenever I found a stick of any size, that became a sword. And so I would get the cool stick, and I'd go out in the middle of my front yard and go, He-Man! And when you do that, like lightning comes down and anoints the sword, and you're conquered. And I remember one time I was doing that, and my mom walks out, and she goes, Sky, can you just yell, Jesus? Like, this sounds cool, Mom. This sounds cool. Tell you what, like lightning coming out. Hero. Yeah. So, living with absolute confidence. A lot of times it has to do with what our confidence is in. We want something more than what we have most of the time. Because a lot of us don't have the confidence most of the time. And so we make ourselves look good. We put on a cool shirt, look good, or I put on something like this, kid, so I can look cool. Or maybe we go to different sources to figure out what it actually means to have confidence. And so, now, for some reason, multimedia companies and social network companies have made millions off of focusing on you, Now, this doesn't quite jive, I think, with another view of what it means to have confidence. In his book, The Purpose-Driven Life, Rick Warren, he writes something, and actually this book, it's sold over 30 million copies worldwide, and next to the Bible, it's the most widely translated book of all time. Next to the Bible, The Purpose-Driven Life. And in this book, the first sentence of the first chapter says, it's not about you. Now, how could companies make so much money off of focusing on you, and yet at the same time, a huge bookseller, the most widely translated book next to the Bible, have such a strong statement against it? Doesn't it seem opposing? But I'm thinking that our significance is usually related to how our identity reflects what we admire most. How our identity reflects what we admire most. How my identity reflects what I admire most. If I admire something in someone, I choose to value that highly. I look up to them. I think they're important. Someone's famous. I'd love to be famous. So the extent to which I am famous is the extent to which I value myself as significant, possibly. For you, what is that? What's that thing that you highly admire most, possibly in someone else? Do I get my sense of significance from reflecting the things that I admire the most? What do you admire the most? As a Christian, I would say, God loves you. God has a plan for your life. God is the one who we want to look to for our sense of significance. In fact, He's the one we want to get esteemed by. There's one of my favorite verses, and I learned this when I was about 15 or 16. It's on Isaiah 66:2. He says, "This is the one I esteem, he who is humble and contrite, and who trembles at my word. This is the one I esteem." Find out what God esteems and shoot for that. How to live with absolute confidence. You can have confidence in what God thinks of you because you decide to highly value what He values.